people don't know this, but he had a piece of every sports book down there. And when they got in trouble, they went to Joe to borrow money. So he really was the big financial backbone of the offshore market for years. No one really talks about it, but yeah, these guys were innovators. They're one of the first, and started betting games, started moving games. Back then, I was a mover, and the deal basically was, if they won 10 grand at the end of the week, we would get 20% of the work off. So we'd win 2,000, and if we lost, we'd have to work it off before we got paid. But I knew even back then that job had an expiration date. So, as a mover, if you can't find more bookmakers, because people were dropping us left and right, you crush your bookmakers. Next thing you know, you own half of their book with them, or they're dropping you, or you're bankrupting them. Uh, and you got to remember, information wasn't around back then. The internet wasn't around, so if we laid six on the game and New York went to 6.5 or 7, well, it took another 4 or 5 hours for Philly to move that line and all the bookmakers in Philly. And even before Don Best, and actually Don Best was started with one of our guys in the group, Al Corbo, started Don Best. I don't know if you guys know that, but even before Don Best, like even if we didn't get all the sharp moves that day, all you had to do was call your bookmakers in New York and get a rundown, and you would see the line changes because all those guys bet New York first, so then you could go hit the streets in Philly. So New York was kind of like our Don Best back then. You saw the lines move. But like I said earlier, I knew that job had an expiration date as a mover because if you can't get more bookmakers, well, then you're out of business. Then they don't need you no more. So what I started to do is I started to reverse engineer the games they were sending me, trying to figure out why they're betting these games.
Mm-hmm.
And then eventually I got good enough and my games were matching up. And actually, I think I got sharper than they were. And in 96, I think it was, or 97, me and Sheep and a couple other guys, we moved out of that office and started our own office.